Everyone's here, and now he learns his two pincers, yes.
Welcome miniature fans, today we have a huge miniature. This is the Hill Giant by Wizkids Games, absolutely beautiful. This is their mid-range miniatures. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this out of the box, and today we'll be concentrating on how to make those skin tones work. Before we start the miniature today, I'm going to be removing any mould lines I see on the miniature. And there's a little one there, so I've got a little round metal file you can pick up from any hobby shop. And I'm just going to take that off very simply with the file, just like so, all gone. And what I do then is anything that's been taken away, I go back over with the surface primer from Vallejo. Now this will bring you back to that first primer state, which means you can paint directly onto the miniature. So what we do is just go around the whole mini looking for those mould lines, removing the mould lines, and then going back over with our surface primer, so we've got a nice even primer coat to begin with. So I've stuck my miniature down with some liquid super glue to the base, and for the colours we're using for the flesh tones today, we're going for Basic Skin Tone by Vallejo and Light Flesh by Vallejo. Now the first thing we do is we put on the basic skin tone on all our flesh areas on this miniature, and once I've applied that first coat, I'll come back and I'll show you what we do with that light flesh tone. Okay, for the next stage we need some cotton buds, just simple cotton buds. I've got some flesh tone ink wash. Now you can use many different ink washes. I'm using this one because it's pre-done and it's a very light ink wash that'll go into all the recesses of the miniature. So what we do, we give it a little shake, make sure all the pigments are mixed, and we add it to our little palette. And it's very, very simple. What we do is we take an old brush and we add the ink wash to all the flesh areas of the miniature, and just let the ink wash do the work for you and go into all those recesses of the mini. Now I do this in sections because I want to use that cotton bud to take away the ink, and this will give instant highlights. Now this is my way of doing things. Everybody has a different way of doing skin, but this I find is a very, very fast way to get instant highlights. By using this cotton bud, you're removing the ink from the highest areas of the mini, plus it gets rid of any excess ink in the recesses that you want to remove. So what we're doing is going around all the highest areas like so, and what's happening is it's giving a light source to the highest parts of the muscles on the miniature. Just like so. Now we do this to all the flesh areas, including the face, and I'll come back and show you. All the ink wash has dried now, and you can see it's given a fantastic effect to all those muscles and really brought out the highlights of the skin. Now later on we'll add that light flesh wash, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to block in all the colours. So I've got some saddle brown for all the brown areas, got some green ochre for the trousers, and I will block in all these colours and come back once they're done. Most of the blocking in has been done now. What I've also done is I added some PVA glue to the base, and I added some nice little stones and pebbles from my local beach. With the stones and pebbles from the local beach, all I've done is I've taken them home, washed them in water a few times just to get any excess rubbish and nastiness off from the rocks, and I dried them in the sun. Absolutely perfect, and saves you a bit of money too. So these have now been stuck on. I have to wait until that PVA glue dries before I can do anything else. But what's next is we'll be painting in all the buckles of silver. I've added some grey to the rock on the end of the wooden truncheon there. And once this is all dry, I'll come back and we'll make a start on the backpack, which is a nice and easy paint. Okay, so the hill giant is coming on really well. I've added some silver for the buckles and did 2 different colours. I've added some grey for the rocks and the boulder. These will be covered in a black ink wash very shortly. But what I want to show you now is the backpack. So what we do to bring out some highlights on the backpack, because it's such a large miniature, we can get away with a nice bit of dry brushing. So I've got the original colour, which is a saddle brown, and I've got some white as well. So I'm going to take some of the brown and put it onto this tissue, and I'm going to add some white and mix it together on the tissue to make a lighter brown. There we are. And then I'm going to take that paint away from my brush and go over the whole of the backpack. This will highlight all the highest areas and give a nice effect. It's very simple. As you can see, it's all popping away now. And that makes it look nice and worn. We'll go over the top of here. Again, I'm adding a little bit more white now to the mix, just to make it a little bit brighter. There we go. And just to the highest areas, just to bring out the ruffles in that rucksack. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. And as you can see, it looks really worn now. Got a lovely effect going on that backpack. And we do exactly the same with the trousers. So with the trousers, we're using that green ochre. We use green ochre. We add some of that white on our tissue just to make it a little bit lighter, and then we'll dry brush all over the highest areas of his trousers, and that will bring out all the highest areas and make it look warm. Okay, so we're going on really well now. I've added all the highlights to the trousers, the backpack, done the rocks. I've added an ink wash, a black ink wash to the rock there, and the base. Now what I'm going to do, I have a brown ink wash. This brown ink wash is going to go over all the rucksack, and it's also going to go over all the trousers. Now, as I showed you before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my cotton buds and take away the excess ink from the miniature as I add the ink wash. So I'll come back once I've added all this brown ink wash to both the trousers and the backpack, and we'll also go along the straps as well, so it all blends in nice enough. Our hill giant is coming on stupendously now. So what's next is the eyes and the hair. Now I've got some white again, and what we're going to do is get those eyes painted in. Very simply, I'm just going to use a very fine brush. And I'm just going to go over those eyes with the white. There's one. Get some more paint on that brush, just a tiny weeny little bit of white. And again, there you go. There's your little eyeballs in. Hello. So what else I'm going to do now is I am just going to fill in the rest of that hair. Just quickly paint over that hair white. He hasn't got much hair, but what he has got I shall paint in. And what I'll do with the hair is I will go over that with a grey ink wash because I want to keep the hair white. There we are, simple as that. Once that's dried, we'll add that grey ink wash, and I'll put 2 tiny pupils of black in for the eye sockets. So if you get to this stage, I think you've done absolutely fantastic. Now this would be as far as I'd go for a nice tabletop miniature. So if you want to stop here, this is more than acceptable. I've added a bit of that green ochre around the places on the backpack as well. It's just to add a little bit of emphasis and take a bit of colour variation over the whole miniature, and it all blends in very well with the trousers and looks fantastic on the backpack. And I did the same with the rope. I've added the eyes and the grey on top of the hair. Absolutely stunning miniature. Really like this miniature. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish this up a little bit more, and then I'll give you a 360 of the miniature, how I would paint it to a tabletop standard. So here is the finished Hill Giant by Wizkids Games. Absolutely beautiful miniature. I really do like this miniature. As you can see, I've added a bit more highlights to the skin tones. I've added a few more silver buckles here and there. Finished the backpack, added some shrubs to the base. So there we are. This is this week's miniature. If you enjoy what I'm doing, then please hit that sub button. If you want to support the channel, then please become a patron. All patrons are added to the end credits of all my videos. So until next time.
Goodbye, my fellow ones. Sleep well. Dream of evil paintbrushes.